Part 4, multiplying fractions. Of all the operations that you can do with fractions, I like multiplication the best. You simply multiply top times the top and bottom times the bottom. That's it. On the example that I've written, 2/3 times 4/5, the top times the top, 2 times 4 is 8, and bottom times the bottom, 3 times 5 is 15. And that's my answer, unless of course I could reduce, which in this case I cannot. If you were given 3/10 times 15/12, this is a situation that has actually two ways of working. 3 times 15 is 45. Again, top times the top and bottom times the bottom. 10 times 12 is 120. However, you notice very quickly that this is in bad need of reducing. Now, you've got two options when you have a situation like this. You can wait until this thing gets built up into some monster like Godzilla thing, or you could reduce the monster while it's still weak and baby-like, which is the way I plan to do it. So let's try 3/10 times 15/12 again, and just as before. But instead of multiplying these out and getting 45 over 120, we could take the 3 on the top and cancel it with the 12 on the bottom. Now, any number on the top can cancel with any number on the bottom, because remember, multiplication is commutative, and that 3 can switch with the 15 just as easily as the 15 can switch with the 3. So 3 will divide into 12 4 times. And 15 on the top may not divide into 10 on the bottom, but we do know that 5 will go into 15 3 times on the top, and 5 will go into 10 twice on the bottom. So we have a 1 times 3, which is 3 on the top, and 2 times 4, which is 8 on the bottom. If we looked at 45 and 120, we will notice that when we reduce, it will also become 3/8. So you have a choice of either waiting until it becomes horribly large and nasty, or kind of beating them up before they get to be monster-like. Let's try this with another example. 18 over 25 times 15 over 27. Now, we already know we multiply top times the top and bottom times the bottom, but I think we can see that these numbers will already be too large to work with. And maybe there's a way of either reducing 18/25 or 18 over 27. Now, if we look a little while, we see that 18 is divisible by 9, so 9 will go into 18 twice, and 9 will go into 27 3 times. Also, we have a 15 and a 25, both of them divisible by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 25 divided by 5 makes 5. Now, are there any other numbers that will reduce before we get to the end? Can you see that 3 will divide into the top once, and 3 will also divide into the bottom once? And we're left with 2 times 1, which is 2, and 5 times 1, and we get 5. So this is one that you may want to play back, because you see that even if you see the answer, you get the answer of 2/5. But when you look at all of the crossings, when we cross out all of these numbers, it looks like a war zone, and you can't really tell what has been done. But by seeing this a second time or a third time, it may be able to ring a little more clearly in your conscious, and we will, hopefully you'll all agree that 2/5 is the final answer. Now, once before, in a previous lesson, we already found out that there are two ways to write fractions. You could either write it with a horizontal line or with this cute little slanted line. But as I mentioned earlier, when you multiply two fractions together, this is way better to write them in a horizontal fashion rather than in this slanted fashion. So this would be a big no in my world, and my final answer is 2/5. Now, there is one other thing that could possibly give you a problem with a situation of multiplication, a lot of you confuse the word cross-canceling with cross-multiplying. You might have heard this term before. Let me just say that cross-multiplication always involves an equal sign. So if I gave you x over 2 equals 17 over 15, in this situation you would cross-multiply. But whenever you have a multiplication symbol between two fractions, you would always cross-cancel. So do not confuse cross-multiplication with cross-canceling.